This is a video in which we will be looking at persuasive techniques as they are applied to political advertising. In the previous session of our course, we looked at persuasive techniques in advertising of products and services. Politics gets into things that are a little bit stickier. Consider the ethics of it first. This is a quotation from Adlai Stevenson, who comes from a family of politicians. Governor of Illinois, he ran for U.S. president, eventually became an ambassador to the United Nations. But he believes, quote, "The idea that you can merchandise candidates for high office like breakfast cereal, that you can gather votes like box tops is, I think, the ultimate indignity to the democratic process." You can think about that and the ethics of it, but the reality is that right now many of our political advertisements are not too different from our commercial cereal box advertisements. So we're going to review the persuasive techniques from session 1. Same things applied to politics. Bandwagon, for example, would be the idea that everyone else is going to vote for this candidate. Everyone else likes this particular candidate. You should too. And that's very similar to expert testimonial. We're relying on someone else's word, in this case, someone who's very involved in the political scene, or perhaps just your average Joe the plumber kind of person. Plain folks is the strategy that you're just like everybody else, and many candidates try to appear as if they are not actually millionaires, but actually just like you and me. Appeals to emotions are often used in politics. Just wait till the next election cycle comes through and watch all the commercials with the pithy music. Snob appeal. There have been a number of candidates who were conceived as too erudite or scholarly or too wealthy for the average voter. It's been a trap for people. Loaded words like freedom or liberty or government interference. There's a lot of words in election cycles that come up with an emotional power beyond just the dictionary definition. Repetition. There are certain slogans you might see posted everywhere that would be used in politics. An if-then type scenario. If you vote for this candidate, then these will be the disastrous or wondrous accomplishments that will follow. And lastly, stacking, and this is where you see a candidate's record reviewed. Voted for this, did not vote for this, did not vote for that, and so forth. And so many of those can be seen in some of the political advertising that we see. How are they actually used? Let's take a look at a few examples. Here's an example. Hillary for president. This could be our past, could be our future. I think that's still in flux. It says, would you vote for Clinton as president? 57% say yes. What is the persuasive technique being used in this advertisement? Here's another example. What persuasive technique is used in this political advertisement? The facts about President Obama's economic record, January 2009, today, and whatever date that was, and then percent change with the arrows up and down, unemployment, national debt, price of gas, and so forth. What technique is used for this one? Here's another one. Example 3. What persuasive technique is used in this political advertisement? I forgot where I worked for 3 years. I forgot where I put all my money. I forgot that I outsourced jobs. I forgot that I invented Obamacare. I forgot how much money I made. I forgot I bullied kids in school. I forgot how many I left jobless. I forgot what America stands for, and I want to be your president. And then the catch line, Mitt Romney, forget about it. What is the technique being used here? And try this one. We've got the image of Bill Clinton with his saxophone and Obama with his basketball. What is the technique being used? And lastly, a bit of a video.
I was born in a little town called Hope, Arkansas, 3 months after my father died. I remember that old 2-story house where I lived with my grandparents. They had very limited incomes. It was in 1963 that I went to Washington and met President Kennedy at the Boys Nation program. And I remember just thinking what an incredible country this was, that somebody like me, had no money or anything, would be given the opportunity to meet the president. That's when I decided that I could really do public service because I cared so much about people. I worked my way through law school with part-time jobs, anything I could find. After I graduated, I really didn't care about making a lot of money. I just wanted to go home and see if I could make a difference. We've worked hard in education and healthcare and creating create jobs, and we've made real progress. Now it's exhilarating to me to think that as president, I can help to change all our people's lives for the better and bring hope back to the American dream.
What technique is being used here? Okay, we're going to take a look at some additional persuasive techniques unique to politics. Well, maybe not unique to politics, but often employed. Fear, avoidance, name-calling, glittering generalities, euphemism, and transfer. Many of these are applied in campaigns. Let's take a look at some of them. Fear. Here's a quotation that you might relate to. Why, of course the people don't want war. Why would some poor slob on a farm want to risk his life in a war when the best he can get out of it is to come back to his farm in one piece? That is understood. But after all, it is the leaders of the country who determine the policy, and it is always a simple matter to drag the people along. All you have to do is tell them they are being attacked and denounce the pacifists for lack of patriotism and exposing the country to danger. It works the same way in any country. This is from Hermann Goering, Hitler's right-hand man and the co-founder of the Nazi Gestapo. Here he is pictured with another famous gentleman here. So another example of fear in this advertisement from Johnson's campaign.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 6, 8, 9,
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. These are the stakes. To make a world in which all of God's children can live, or to go into the dark. We must either love each other, or we must die.
Vote for President Johnson on November 3rd. The stakes are too high for you to stay home.
And the Daisy Girl ad that aired only once did probably support Johnson in his bid for presidency in 1964. Some other examples of fear from our distant national past. This was the cause for the revolution here, each of these parts of this snake representing a part of the colonies. And this World War II advertisement, how awful it would be if the Japanese actually did this. You better invest in those war bonds. Another technique, avoidance. Let's not answer the hard questions. Let's just talk around them instead. Makes some sense. Here's a short video clip to show you this.
The art of not answering tough questions serves candidates well. We'll call this technique avoidance. It's often used when the candidate knows that the topic is controversial, and it might be easier to sidestep the issue.
Mr. Vice President, yes, we read your lips. No new taxes. But despite that same pledge from President Reagan, after income tax rates were cut, in each of the last 5 years, some federal taxes have gone up on Social Security, cigarettes, liquor, even long-distance telephone calls. Now, that's money straight out of people's wallets. Isn't the phrase "no new taxes" misleading the voters?
No, because I'm pledged to that. And yes, some taxes have gone up, and the main point is taxes have been cut, and yet income is up to the federal government by 25% in the last 3 years. And so what I want to do is keep this expansion going. I don't want to kill it off by a tax increase. More Americans at work today than at any time in the history of this country, and a greater percentage of the workforce. And the way you kill expansions is to raise taxes. And I don't want to do that. And I won't do that. And what I have proposed is something much better.
Homicide is the leading cause of death among young black males 15 to 24 years of old. What are you going to do to get the guns off the street?
What are you going to do to get the guns
on any program, and this includes crime? You'll find we have all kinds of great plans lying around. You'll find we have never get enacted into law and implemented. I don't care what it is. Competitiveness, healthcare, crime, you name it. Brady bill, I agree with that it's a timid step in the right direction, but it won't fix it. So why pass a law that won't fix it? Now, what it really boils down to is, can you live We have become so preoccupied with the rights of the criminal that we've forgotten the rights of the innocent.
I want to take you back, if I can, to the question Judy asked you about some of the apprehensions people may feel about your being a heartbeat away from the presidency. And let us assume, if we can, for the sake of this question, that you become vice president and the president is incapacitated for one reason or another and you have to take the reins of power. When that moment came, what would be the first steps that you take and why?
What would be the first steps that you take and why?
First, I'd say a prayer for myself.
First, I'd say a prayer.
And for the country that I'm about to lead. And then I would assemble his people and talk. And I think this question keeps going back to the qualifications and what kind of a vice president in this hypothetical situation. If I had to assume responsibilities of president, what I would be.
Responsibilities of president, what I would be.
Much easier to avoid the question. Another technique often used in politics, name-calling. Instead of talking about what's actually rationally going to happen, plans, proposals, and ideas for our country, just attack him as a person instead. This is called two-year-olds in politics. Example of this would be this Obama ad.
It was in front of a group of high school students that Obama confessed his youthful drug use, including cocaine. You want your kids looking up to junkie, pothead, bad decisions, marijuana, alcohol? That's not presidential material. Obama thinks the White House will be a fun trip. America, tell Obama to leave the drugs on the streets and vote for McCain.
You get the idea. Glittering generalities. This is the idea that we're going to talk about vague, emotionally appealing ideas like perhaps freedom and liberty and happiness when we don't really know what we're actually aiming for. Everybody wants to improve education. Everyone wants safe borders. What does that mean? It's that devil in the detail idea. So let's take a look at some of these glittering generalities.
Candidates come to debates well briefed and ready to offer many facts in support of their positions. However, sometimes they use broad generalities without proper proof.
I got into this race because I did not want my child to grow up to be part of the first generation of Americans to do worse than their parents. We're better than that. We can do better than that. I want to make America as great as it can be, and I ask for your help.
But the exciting thing is, the fear of nuclear war is down, and you hear all the bad stuff that's happened on my watch. I hope people will recognize that this is something pretty good for mankind. I hope they'll think it's good that democracy and freedom is on the move. And we're going to stay engaged as long as I'm president, working to improve things.
Quality of life, who wouldn't want that? Same thing with prosperity. Euphemism. This is another way of using words to use polite expressions that avoid reality. For example, we talk about collateral damage instead of accidental deaths, and a correctional facility instead of a jail. How many people do you know that go to jail and actually experience correction? So an example of euphemism in politics might be these terms, pro-life and pro-choice. The reality of either of these is often not discussed, but it becomes a catchword, a slogan, something that we use to avoid talking about those details. And lastly, transfer. And this is the idea of projecting negative or positive qualities of one thing onto another, so that you transfer those emotions. So for example, Obama here, Hitler here, National Socialism, we're going to equate terrible things that happened under this man to this man, regardless of what this term socialism actually means. Similarly, this famous I Want You for the U.S. Army poster from World War I has been transformed into Osama bin Laden, and I want you to invade Iraq is the new slogan here. Going to transfer some of the patriotic sense of terror to this situation. So when you put it all together, what do you see in this 2004 Bush advertisement? What techniques do you see at work here?
These 4 years have brought moments I could not foresee and will not forget. I've learned firsthand that ordering Americans into battle is the hardest decision, even when it is right. I return the salute of wounded soldiers who say they were just doing their job. I've held the children of the fallen who are told their dad or mom is a hero, but would rather just have their mom or dad. I've met with the parents and wives and husbands who have received a folded flag. And in those military families, I have seen the character of a great nation. Because of your service and sacrifice, we are defeating the terrorists where they live and plan, and you're making America safer. I will never relent in defending America, whatever it takes. I'm George W. Bush, and I approve this message.
Take a moment and think about what that means. What are the different techniques you saw in that advertisement? And we come back to the purpose of the video, knowing why we are using political techniques, why we're concerned with political rhetoric. Each of you is one election or maybe 2 election cycles away from being a voter, and you'll need to sort through a lot of the different advertisements and persuasive messages coming at you. That's the purpose for this. Take a moment and review what the most important thing that you've learned in this video is.